Yes, so everybody, welcome at this session about co-creation and citizen engagement. My name is Meia Wippoo. I'm the lead of co-creation lab at Waag, which makes me an expert in co-creation and citizen engagement. And today I will guide you guys through this session with 5 speakers. And hopefully you will be able to interact a little bit as well. And we have your questions included here also. Just a few housekeeping rules. Some of you might already have done some sessions yesterday. But for those who just joined us today, just a very quick overview of how things work during this session. Should you have a question for one of the speakers or in general, please use the chat function for this. So you should go to the chat area and then select session, and then you can ask questions. And please make sure that you address the person that you want to ask the question to, so that we can identify who the question is for. If it's a general question, please let us know as well. We will also do a few polls during this session, just to get a little bit of a temperature check from the audience. So to join those polls, you just go to the tab for polls and also select session, and then you will see the polls pop up that we want to set up. So if you want to see who is attending the session, go to people and then session. And to maximize the screen, you can hide the chat or double click on the presentation or speaker. You can also use the networking function and go to the exhibit area. So hopefully everybody has the same screen in front of them, and you can find it as it's shown on this slide. And of course, you can join the conversation on social media by using the hashtag POLIS20. Okay, so let's look at the today's speakers. We have 5 speakers, all with a very nice background and great diversity in stories to tell. We will start with Maria Chatziathanasiou from CERTH. Then we have Hannelore from Mobiel 21. Rico Andriesse from Goudappel Coffeng. Jordi Ortuño from the city of Barcelona. And we finish up with Ralf Brand from Rupprecht Consult. In between sessions, we have a little bit of time to ask questions to the different speakers. So feel free to set up your questions again, like I said earlier. Stop sharing my screen. Yeah. So this is my face. And then I will leave the stage for now, and I'll give the word to Maria. Maria, can you join the stage? But before we do that, I think the first poll that I want to check is, but then we already see your face, so that's nice. I want to check with the audience what your background is, so that we have a little bit of an idea of, well, who we have here in this group. And so if you all go to the poll sections, there's now a question. Tell us who you are, what kind of organization do you work for. So if you can select your background, then we have a little bit of insight into where you're from, what you're doing. So yeah, if you can all do that now, then that would be great. I have 0 feedback, so I don't know if someone is working on it. right. I will let that come in, the poll come in over the course of Maria's first presentation. I can't see the results yet, but maybe I'm looking at the wrong place. So please use the poll. If you're not able to find it, it's on the right side, just like I showed you in the earlier slides. And then I will leave the stage and leave the floor to you, Maria.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Meia, for the introduction. Are you able to see my screen? I think it might be okay. So good morning. I am Maria Chatziathanasiou. I am a transport engineer working at the Hellenic Institute of Transport in Greece. And in the next few minutes, I would like to share with you some aspects regarding the participatory approach within the sustainable urban mobility plans. So let me start with the basic question, and this is why. Why involve citizens and stakeholders in SUMs? And the answer is not because I have to, because it is obligatory to report on engagement in order to have my SUM approved. The answer is because I need to. I need to bring the knowledge not only of external stakeholders and technical experts, but also the user's knowledge, the citizen's knowledge. I need to have my SUM approved not only in paper, but in principle by the people who will be affected by it. I need to reach out to my citizens right from the beginning of the planning process, because this will really support the change that I want to bring with my SUM. And surely I need to build a long-lasting relationship with my citizens. Despite all this, you will find that challenges in developing and implementing an effective engagement strategy are still there. And this will actually bring me to a short overview of the project that brought me here today with you. And this is the SmartTech project, which is an Indirect Europe project under the axis of low carbon economy that deals with marketing techniques for improving sustainable mobility planning. We are leading a consortium of 9 partners representing 6 European regions. Our project has a 3-year duration starting from August 2019. And as in all Indirect Europe projects, it consists of 2 phases. Phase 1, where an extended exchange of experience takes place in various levels, which will result in the development of regional action plans. And phase 2, where these action plans will be implemented. So eventually, marketing techniques will be implemented in each of the 6 regions with the aim of either increasing citizens' awareness towards sustainable modes of transport, or engaging citizens and stakeholders in mobility co-planning. And to achieve this, to do this, we did not start from scratch. We explored good practices of marketing techniques coming initially from our partner regions, but also from all around Europe and beyond. While taking a good insight in these practices and the marketing techniques they represent, we were able to better understand the dynamics of each technique within the SUM planning process. And looking at the SUM process, and it's well known to you, 4 phases and 12 cycle steps, we should address citizens and stakeholders' participation throughout the entire planning process, and nonetheless in various levels of engagement taxonomy, from informing to eventually collaborating for co-planning. Wise thinking, this means that we should not target on exhaustive approaches that reach out to the higher level of the spectrum of public participation in each one of the 12 cycle steps, rather than we should carefully reflect on the participatory needs of each Zoom cycle phase and carefully build on our engagement strategy. Moving a step forward, as you know, there is a variety of engagement tools, techniques, and methods recommended for Zoom development. You can see here a categorization according to the engagement process, increasing awareness, engaging to co-planning, or both. The techniques presented here originate from the marketing industry and differentiate, for example, between techniques that use the process of storytelling and knowledge spread as the word of mouth techniques, and to forms of marketing that emphasize in the target audience satisfaction, such as the relationship marketing. Relevant methods are colored according to the techniques they are related to, and this is a proposed categorization made based on the method's main objective, let's say. So, if you are a city authority, a regional authority, a metropolitan unit, and you want to develop your Zoom, you understand there is a large pool of tools to exploit, and in many, if not most cases, you will find out that perhaps a combination of techniques and methods will be the key to the success of your engagement strategy. It's not the aim of this presentation to dive into an exercise on how to build the engagement strategy, but we should highlight what we think the 4 key elements that should be set under consideration for your engagement strategy are. And first of all, you should look at your participants and the type of groups that you need to reach. In the case of a Zoom, of course, you might say that there are not many cases where that you can leave behind, especially, of course, when citizens are concerned. Of course, we cannot argue with that, but our basic recommendation is that you need to consider its target group's values and needs separately. This will also guide you through the level of participation that you want to reach for its target group, always in relation to the Zoom cycle phase, which in its turn relates to the 3rd key element, the time frame. And last but not least, you should always plan under available resources, human or monetary, but this is quite important. You should always plan to have available resources for engagement. As we have seen that many successful Zooms really have invested on the communication and engagement content. I would really urge you to have a look at the handbook that we prepared within the SmartTech project. If you seek guidance on how to apply engagement techniques and their enabling methods in sustainable mobility planning, there you will find a list of techniques and methods, their definition, the way they can be combined to each other, the Zoom phases in which each method can be applied, as well as considerations regarding the cost and the necessary duration of each method. And of course, you can learn more about real cases that applied such techniques and methods. And of course, if you need to contact us for further information, these are our contact details. And from my part, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Maria. I don't think there's a lot of questions yet for you. I think it's a very clear presentation. I just have one question from my side. Is sort of the why. So why is the citizen engagement in is that the right? Why is it the right approach to approach sustainable urban mobility plans. Is that, why do you think that's sort of the baseline of working?
I think the main message is that when you plan for all, you should plan with all. So I wouldn't like to say more, because eventually SUMs are for the citizens, are for all the people, and when you decide for all the people, you should have all these people together with you, because they will be eventually the receivers of all the interventions that the SUM proposes. They will be the receivers of the vision of your SUM, of the measures of your SUM.
All right, great. I'm sure there will be coming in some more questions over the course of the rest of the conversation. I think maybe you can also put in a few of your links that you shared in your presentation also in the chat, because I think most people are interested to just click on something.
So
we can put it in. That would be good. Yeah, and then we will get back to you at the end of the meeting.
Great.
And then I will go quickly to the results of the first poll to see where people are coming from. I think we have quite a nice even spread of representation. I think everybody is able to see the results, but I think we have about a quarter of the people here is from a local or regional authority. Another quarter is also from a university or research institute, and then we have 80% consultancy and 18% NGO type of organizations, and then also 7% governmental organization or ministry, so more on a national level. Not a lot of EU representatives, none actually, a few from the industry. So thank you for participating in this poll. I think it's a nice way of knowing. I actually wanted to ask a second question in the poll, and that is to see what your experience is as an audience with working in co-creation and citizen engagement. Pascal, could you set up that poll as well? And I think it's while we're doing that poll, let's see if there's any other questions in the chat before I go to the next presentation. Yeah, no questions so far. Okay, then I would like to invite Hannelore to the stage. Yes.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, and I will leave the stage and leave the floor to you, Hannelore.
Thank you. I share my screen. So, good morning, everybody. I start with agreeing with Maria that if we plan for all, we need all. And that's basically the topic of my presentation. My name is Hannelore. My colleague Sanne is here somewhere as well in the audience as well. I'm working on citizen participation and education at Mobile 21. Mobile 21 is working on sustainable mobility, as a lot of we do, through research, citizen science projects, campaigns, education, and so on. I'm very happy to introduce to you today Raambabbel. That's window chatting. Raambabbel is our newest strategy for change towards sustainable cities and neighborhoods. At the center of the strategy are people, of course. If you want to build cities for people, then we need the voice of people. Sounds like an open door, but unfortunately that same door to policy making is a lot of times it's closed for a lot of people. Above all, a strong voice is needed, a voice that is more than a gut feeling and a voice that dares to question old habits. We need people to understand the complexity of mobility issue, the relation also between their own mobility behavior and quality of life, and also, and that's an important one, to understand the motivation and needs of other people. And that's why we believe, as you can see on the picture, that it's very important to listen to each other, not just throwing opinions at each other, but trying to really understand other opinions and trying to search together for better solutions. That's why we at Mobile 21 believe strongly in a combination of data and stories. And that's exactly what Rambubble is about. Rambubble, or window chat, is really the place where gut feeling and data bring effort. What is it all about? Rambubble, as I say, to give you a small lesson in Dutch, a ram, that's a window. A bubble, that's a chat. It's a chat at a window. It's a chat in public space, in the streets, at the places where people live. It's not just the chat, because Rambubbles are happening a lot in Belgium. These times, in Corona times, it's all chatting at the window, but it's a chat at the window about mobility data, about quality of life, a chat together with your neighbors. What's the objectives? We want that people know and understand the local meaning of mobility data, not only the usual suspects, but all the people. That's quite ambitious, I know, but we have to put it high. We want more people to interact in a constructive way on mobility and quality of life, not only like-minded people, but also people who differ opinion. We want more citizens to undertake actions for sustainable mobility and quality of life, and we want more people to think about the impact of their own mobility behavior. What's my part in this? So what's the plan? Rambubble, window chatting, has three important pillars where we work on. Visualizing the data from Telegram, and Telegram I will explain you in a minute, so everybody knows and understands the data in a local context, and by visualizing the data we also raise awareness about local mobility. Second, we want to facilitate an open dialogue between neighbors on the local meaning of mobility data, on quality of life in the neighborhood, and on the impact of their own mobility behavior. And third, we want to stimulate co-creation of local solutions for local challenges on mobility and quality of life. This is the process we are running. We believe that if we have data, that's the science, we have citizens who are owner of the data, and we have an inclusive approach in which we engage all citizens, then we can get to better cities and neighborhoods at human pace. This is where it started, the Telegram. That's the little thing you see in the green part of my screen. A Telegram is a low-resolution camera which counts traffic behind a window in the street, in your street. We started with 100 counters in 2018. These days we are somewhere around 1,500 counters. And we are counting, citizens are counting the traffic in their streets. It all comes together on telegram.net in an open data platform. So citizens gather data, but we want to take it a step further. In a lot of, well, sometimes, or maybe often, in citizen science projects, citizens collect the data. In Telegram, we want to level up the participation by engaging citizens as well in the analyzing of the data, in really working with the data, not only collecting it, but interpreting data. So citizens really become owner of the data. And that's important. If we analyze the motivations of 400 counters in Belgium, then we see that getting insight in and monitor local traffic and giving inputs to policy making are the most important reasons to participate in this citizen science project. That's quite a motivation. And that's because of that motivation, citizens become citizen scientists. Citizen scientists are people with a motivation, with dreams for a better street. And we are very happy with Mobile 21 and with other partners, also in the WeCount project. That's a project where we try to level up that citizen engagement by giving new tools to the citizens. In Corona times, that was quite a challenge. But for example, as you see in the left corner of the screen, we tried to do a live pickup, so we could have a little chat with the citizen scientists. And then we combined it with an online workshop. Other things we did was giving them a little package, welcome package with a Telegram in, but also with a little cake to share with their neighbors. We also did, between the two lockdowns, we did some info moments in neighborhood centers to involve more citizens and not only the usual suspect. So that's what we try to do. We try to empower citizens to become equal partners in local policy making on mobility. our ambition goes a little bit beyond that. I said we want to hear more voices in the mobility debate, not only the voice of the usual suspect, not only the voice of the citizen scientist, but also the voice of his or her neighbors. Rambubble, it is about engaging more citizens in this process you see on the screen, the process of measuring, talking to each other about the data, taking actions, trying and failing, monitoring again, monitoring the actions, the result of the actions, talking again and act better. That's the plan. And of course, it's not, as with Telram, it's not one Telram that brings the story, it's the network of Telrams. That's the same for Rambubble. It's the output of a lot of window chats that give very valuable input for local mobility making. So Rambubble really puts citizens in the center, at the heart of the innovation process. They don't participate in top-down participation processes. Well, they also do, but they also start bottom-up a participation process from their own. They create the participation process. Rambubble also wants to tackle the inclusive policy-making issue by using public space. Public space is not only the topic of the debate here, it's also the place where the debate is happening. It's the forum for the debate, and it's also action domain to propose and monitor local solutions. So Rambubble, we see it as a profound exercise in local democracy, where people are really challenged to look beyond their own perspective. They have to ask the question, if that's the street I want to live in, what about that street where I pass with my car 2 times a day? What about the street where I park my car every day? So what is our strategy? How do we want to reach all these people? We want to work with the citizen scientists, create a very strong community of citizen scientists that are really the initiators, the ambassadors of a real bottom-up process. They are the ones who go with the data, who go to their communities, to their neighborhoods. And that's why in this moment we are, well, that was also before the last, this lockdown, we co-create an online platform for the citizen scientists, where we give them the possibility to network with other citizens, to inspire each other, and where we give them tools to understand the data, to analyze the data, to go and talk, initiate dialogue with their neighbors. And that is, according to us, a way to make citizens equal partners in local policy making. Thank you very much for listening, and if you have any question, please shoot.
Thank you, Hannelore. Let's see. First of all, you're getting praise in the chat, so that's always good to hear. It's very interesting, and the project is great. So that's a nice, and not necessarily questions from the audience right now. Please, if you have any questions, let them come in. I actually do have a question. And I was riding along with your presentation, and then you answered my question.
Okay.
But I do have a few things, because of course you mentioned that you don't want to involve the usual suspects only. I assume that that's referring to the people that are very eager to measure their own data and want to be involved, and of course that you're connecting that to reaching out to the rest of the neighborhood and neighbors during the window chatting. But who is actually responsible for that connection? So is that up to the people that are sort of the usual suspects that are you asking them to reach out to others, or how are you facilitating that?
Well, we're also working, like in Telram now, we're also working with community centers, with neighborhood centers, with the people who really work with, well, maybe the hard to reach. That's what also was an ambition in WeCount, reach the hard to reach, which is Corona brought us an extra challenge, because a lot of things are happening online, of course, but we are working with intermediaries as well. And indeed, as you said, in a street, there's a lot of people living in a street, not only people who are interested in mobility, not only believers in sustainable mobility. So that's really the thing that we want to challenge people to listen to each other, neighbors to listen to other neighbors. And we believe that if we can create this whole process of democracy in a street, that we can have like, how do you say that? That levels up. If you organize a lot of streets like that, that we're leveling up. And we see already that counters go to the school board, they go to their neighbors, they put the data on their window, and other people, neighbors, they ask questions. What is this? What does it count? People are surprised by the data. They are wondering what's behind it. So by just visualizing it, you're already making a dialogue also with people who wouldn't be participating otherwise.
Yeah. So I saw a few of your pictures on sort of street events and people working together on solutions. So how do you determine what input is valuable and what isn't? Do you have an idea on that?
How do you determine what input is valuable? I think every input is valuable because it's all about listening to each other and trying to understand what are really the needs of people. It's very easy to judge people who want to keep on using their car, but if you have to be in the factory at 6 o'clock in the morning, well, then you need a car because public transport is not enough to get there. So it's Rambabbel is a lot about opening the dialogue again. We see a lot of debates, well, about a lot of subjects, but definitely also about mobility. And we're trying to open dialogue instead of debate. So I would say every input is valuable in this.
Okay, great. I see that there's a question coming in the chat as well, from Niels Stockman, who says maybe to bring both talks together. A question for you, Hannelore. What changes and challenges are there for integrating projects like yours into a strategic process such as SAMS?
That's a good question. I think it's just because I'm talking a lot about the bottom-up project or participation process. We have to combine both of them. That's why in these Rambabbels, we also want to invite local policymakers who listen to the people who have already been talking to each other. So it's really about if you want to invite people in participation process for your sub, then they need to be empowered. That's the main reason to install Rambabbel. They need to understand the meaning of they need to understand the more complex issue mobility. And if they understand it better, they will be better participants in local policy making. That's the strategy, and that's the challenge, and that's more the opportunity I see.
Great. I think there's one more question before we go to the next next speaker, and any other questions that you have for Hannelore, we will discuss that during the panel discussion at the end. So please keep them coming in, and we'll make sure that we ask them. Just the final one for you now. There's a question from Mathieu, and he asked if there was any incentive involved for the first citizen scientists to participate.
Well, to be honest, they were waiting for it to participate. A lot of citizens have been working on mobility already for quite a while, and this Telram was really a very interesting tool for them to change that gut feeling into a more objective one. If that answers your question. So we didn't really need a big incentive. Well, a free Telram was the incentive. Yeah.
For things to work with, at least.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. All right. So we will see you at the end again, I think, during our panel discussion. To look at this poll that I just set out, I think it's nice to see session. And then there's, I think that's me. There are two people that are an expert. I voted that I am as well. There are a few people that have done quite a bit of co-creation, so that's nice. But there is also quite a big not a majority, but a quarter of the people that have no experience at all. So hopefully we can move that needle and see if we can entice people to become a more co-creative practitioner. All right, so I think I can invite the next speaker to the stage, and that would be Rico Andriesse. Rico, can you join me on the stage? Yes, and I will leave the stage, and the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Meia. So, good morning, everybody. I'm going to tell you about the lessons that we learned from 2 cycle highway design projects that we did. Not because everything went right in these projects. In the contrary, a lot of things went wrong, but we could learn a lot of it. And the first thing that went wrong, you see in this first picture, that is that myself, I am drawing lines on the map while all the citizens are watching me doing it. And that's something that we learned from the project. Give the pencil away, let other people design. So I'm going to tell you something more about this project that we did. The region of Deventer, Apeldoorn and Zutphen, which you find in the east of the Netherlands, have a plan to design a network of cycle highways, and they also built some already. And we, Goudappel Coffeng, a Dutch consultancy company, were asked to do the first design steps of 2 of the routes. One from the city of Apeldoorn going north to some villages over there, and one from the city of Deventer to the city of Zutphen, connecting these 2 middle-sized cities together. And all distances were about 15 kilometers in between. And we were asked to do the first steps of the design process, selecting the data which was available, checking the current situation, then having a design by ambition from the cycle highway. So design more or less like an ideal cycle highway, and measure the potential of the cycle network and see what it costs to see which routes would be the most efficient to build. We had a parallel process for 2 of those routes, and for both we did a forecast of the number of cyclists. We made a study to find out which measures are necessary to build a cycle highway, make a cost estimation, and in a parallel process we tried to get in touch with community members to find out what they thought. So we asked them to tell about opportunities and bottlenecks on the routes. We did a bicycle tour with the groups, and we shared the results of our design process. And because we had 2 parallel processes, we could find out what worked best and what resistance we met during these design processes. And what you see in the middle bottom is a sign which was posted alongside the Apeldoorn and Epe cycle route, saying no highway, so nee, geen snelweg, which means they were very much against building or actually changing the existing small recreational cycle route to a cycle highway. And actually, the way we started the design process, designing the cycle highway from the ideal manual, so red asphalt, actually met more or less the concerns that the groups from this route already had. So the way that we started the design process actually did not take away their concerns, but actually made it even worse. That meant that during the design process we decided to change our approach, give more more ears and eyes to the citizens, and also involve more landscape architects and ecologists in our design team to have a better view on what was going wrong in this this project. And in another survey, we tried to find all the citizens around the route, because there were some very concerned people being against this route. But our idea was, and it was confirmed by the survey, that there were also a lot of people living around this route who were actually in favor of it. From this process, a lot of things went wrong, but we could get you some lessons to learn from, and to prevent you making the same mistakes that we did. First one is the timing. What is the right time to start your citizens process, for example, at a project like this cycle highway? You could do two things wrong. You could start too early, when the project is too vague. You don't have an idea of what you want or what it should be. But you could also start too late, and then the citizens get the idea that they are passed by, that they weren't listened to. So the exact starting point of it comes quite exactly. And afterwards, I think we started a little too early with this process. We should have thought first, what do we want, and how do we fit in our cycle highway into the landscape, and then go to the citizens to see what they think of it. Try to find out what the group that you are wanting to get in touch with really wants. One thing that worked very well for our participation process in both routes was going cycling, and that actually always works quite good. So if you have a project involving people and involving a design project, even if it's a highway for cars, go cycling in the neighborhood and see what problems you might find, which nice places people wanna share, wanna spare in your design process. The third is have an open and transparent communication. Good information is the key to a good citizen process. One thing that we sometimes sometimes tend to forget is why do we do this project? Why do we want to build this cycle highway? Why do we want to get the citizens into our project? So keep on emphasizing that aspect of it, and keep in touch. Even if there's nothing to say, if there's no news, every now and then citizens should hear something from your project to know that you're still working on it. And the fourth lesson is have a understandable message for everybody. Not everybody is a technical expert. Not everybody is able to understand difficult technical drawings, or is willing to read difficult reports. So make that as visual as possible, and make it understandable for everybody. All in all, we have had a project going 2 steps forward and 1 step back, but well, we didn't do everything right. I guess we made a lot of mistakes in this project, but I hope it helps you to well, to prevent you to make the same mistakes when you're going to have a cycle highway for yourself. If you want to know more, we published a paper on designing cycle highways in the POLIS magazine some time ago. I will share the link to it in the chat in a few seconds.
Thank you. So far, I haven't seen a question in the chat, but again, for the audience, feel free to set up a question. So I was curious, having people make a clear statement, not in my backyard, is quite a very heavy position to take. How were you able to sort of get those people into the fold, sort of into the conversation?
Well, we tried some ways to do it. First was to get a little bit more informal in the group. So we tried the cycle tour. We did a lot of community meetings, but in the end they stayed, well, more or less reluctant to have this cycle highway. And then we thought, oh, we had a nice meeting now, but then Saturday evening, all the time there was a new message to the deputy mayor of the city. Hey, well, they are doing some wrong things. Well, don't let them do that. So it was all the time. It was 2 steps forward and then 1 step back, and making very, very little steps to get this cycle highway, which is still not built. They are still trying to get a good route choice and a good design, which is acceptable for everybody.
So what are do you have a better sense of what the concerns of these people were by approaching them?
Yeah, that is, and I think they are quite real concerns. They have had some it is quite a nice landscape which the cycle highways is going through, and I think it's a good thing to try to preserve this landscape, and we really tried this in this design process, but well, then I guess it was already too late to change the opinion of the citizens.
Yeah. So and is that then also a thing that they were involved too late, in your opinion?
Well, maybe actually they were involved too early. At least in the process that we started, that was asked by the government to make, let's say, a technical design of what it should like an ideal cycle highway, which we already knew that it wouldn't be possible to build here. But starting this design process, that was not feasible for a great citizen involvement. So we should have either made a technical design from our offices, or we should have made a integrated landscape citizens technical design together with the citizens. I think the last one would have been better, but having started a technical design process, I think we should have first made our choices and then go to the set.
All right. I see that Meia also has a question for you. She says, do you think that the initial doubts revealed during the workshops were eventually a matter of the design itself, or the way the proposals were presented, or both?
I guess both. And I think there was a third concern, and that was that the people from the villages already had an idea of what they would get in this process, because they had done some steps before and had already had some concerns on beforehand, and we didn't manage to get this idea away.
All right. Okay, so I think we should go to our next speaker. Thank you, Rico, and we'll see you at the end during our panel discussion.
Thank you.
All right. Then I would like to invite Jordi to the stage. Jordi, are you there? Really? Are you still in the...
Hi,
Yeah.
hello.
Hello.
Good morning.
All right, I will give you the floor, and I will get back to you at the end of your presentation. I'll leave you to it. Good luck.
try to share my screen. Okay. Now, can you see my screen? Hello? I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you, Jordi. We can. Perfect.
Okay, thanks. Sorry. Now I think we are in the right slide. So hello, good morning. My name is Jordi Ortuño from Barcelona City Council. I work in innovation department. Most of the projects that I am managing is about urban mobility, smart mobility, and it's my pleasure to be a part of POLIS Conference. So my talk will I will cover two points. The first is a quick introduction of EIT urban mobility vision of citizens engagement and its challenge. And in the second point, we will go deeper about the DecidiUM as a project that will deliver the strategy as well as the platform to support this strategy. So just a short introduction about the EIT urban mobility as its vision of citizens engagement. Developing solutions with and for citizens is the key to delivering real change. Here you are some of the main challenges. I already know for most of you. Build trust for long-term relations with citizens, create awareness of EIT urban mobility among citizens and end users, enhance two-way communications, and create opportunities to experience new products, systems, and services. They are the more relevance of the challenge that urban mobility, EIT urban mobility is. And this challenge is based on three pillars. The first is Connect, about creating awareness and includes activities to engage, inform, and involve the citizens. The second is Exchange. This pillar is about creating a relationship of trust and exchanging information with the citizens. And the pillar Empower is about co-creating together with the citizens, involving them in the ideation process. So, and now let me share with you a project that we are developing. We are working now in the EIT urban mobility context. EIT urban mobility launched at the beginning of this year a call related to elaborate and create its own strategy of citizens engagement. We applied it because we found that it was very interesting as a Barcelona and as a member of the KIC. And we were awarded with DecidiUM. DecidiUM is a platform that already exists. Maybe some of you already know because it's installed in other cities and in other entities. The project is a very short project with a very tight schedule, 6 months duration, with 13 European partners involved in the project. And this is coordinated by Barcelona with a strong collaboration with the University of Lisbon and POLIS. The project is divided in three tasks. The first is related to collect the best practice of citizens engagement experience within the EIT urban mobility partnership and also from other entities to develop a citizens engagement strategy. This is the task number 3 that will provide a guidance of how to implement citizens engagement activities and how to do it, and finally to creation of the citizens engagement platform based on the well-known solution, the DecidiUM, that we will see later with more detail. So this is a short introduction about the task related to collection of best practices led by University of Lisbon. It's a very well organized and conducted and consolidate the best practices of citizens engagement experiences within the EIT Urban Mobility Partnership and other known examples in Europe. So the task provides us with not only the current situation, but also identifies the existing gaps, suggesting how to tackle them to achieve the EIT urban mobility objectives. About the strategy, once we have collected the best practices, we elaborate the strategy. This strategy is already done, and the task is led by Barcelona City Council with a major collaboration of POLIS, and the task has developed guidance on how to implement citizens' engagement in innovation activities of urban mobility. Based on the best practice collection of task number 2, the existing citizens engagement strategies in this task goes further, analyzing and improving, identifying gaps and building a guidance. In the first schemes, we can see that the citizens engagement can come both from actions from the EIT urban mobility partners inside the organizations, but also from initiatives from citizens, organizations, stakeholders, and other institutional actors. And in the right hand, we can see a scheme about the level of involvement that the citizens and other actors can be involved in this process, depending of the level of this involvement. And final, last but not least, the platform, led also by Barcelona with the strong collaboration of University of Brussels and Metropolis Lab. DecidiUM is a digital infrastructure for participatory democracy built as a free software, open source. This is a web environment, a framework produced in Ruby on Rails that allows you to create and configure a website platform or portal network for democratic participation. And this, I would like to highlight here 2 important points, because we are integrating 2 platforms that brings a lot of value of DecidiUM project, showing that DecidiUM is a platform fully interoperable. The first is MAMCA, provided by University of Brussels, and this is multi-actor, multi-criteria analysis, and this is a decision-making model which enables the simultaneous evaluation of alternative policies, measures, scenarios, technologies, and so on. And we have achieved a good level of integration because in this case, a process, our idea is a process can start from the beginning in the DecidiUM platform, but if needed, because the requirements are very complex on MAMCA, we see that can do it better than DecidiUM. We move the control to MAMCA. We can continue the process, the participatory process of MAMCA, and when the multi-criteria analysis is done, the control returns to DecidiUM. So we think that is a good example of integration based on the platform, DecidiUM, but also showing, demonstrating that he is interoperable. And another use case that is interesting and makes sense for us is by bus. This is a on-demand software as a service that provides an innovation solution with artificial intelligence algorithms. And in this use case, we are about to launch the first participatory process with DecidiUM in order to get users' feedback about how to improve the corporate mobility and how to know how they imagine the perfect corporate mobility to implement the best tools for them. So this is all from my side. This is a project that we are expecting to finish by the end of this year, but a very tight schedule. But if nothing unexpected happens, I think we can achieve, and we will be very happy to deliver the platform both and the strategy to EIT urban mobility as its own strategy of citizens engagement. And this is all from my side.
Thank you, Jordi. I just heard that maybe I wasn't, people couldn't hear me well enough, but hopefully this is better. Thank you, Jordi. I think there's okay, great. There's a question for you in the chat. And that's mainly if you can just put the links to your resources in the chat. So that's nice. So that people can just click through it. I was just wondering, because 6 months seems like a very short period to set up a citizen engagement. How do you expect the process to be sustainable after you leave the 6 month period, or you're actively involved with this approach? How are you expecting to make it sustainable?
Yeah. So this has been a very scheduled calendar, very scheduled project with 6 months, as you say. I fully agree with you. But we have you have to consider that we have based on DecidiUM that this is a platform that already exists. So the most of time we have spent the most of time creating the strategy and collecting the best practices from other institutions and cities. I think that from beginning of the next year, when the platform and the strategy will be delivered to EIT urban mobility, it will be a sustainable strategy because of all the partners that we are collaborating in EIT has its own experience in citizens engagement. So I think it will not be difficult to consolidate all the experiences and to work in this direction.
Yeah, well, you will see it in a few months, right?
Yeah. This is very tight schedule. We are on time. But please consider that the platform is most of the platform is already developed. There are a lot of entities and cities that they are using DecidiUM. So we haven't spent too much time developing the platform. We are more working the strategy based on the experience with other cities as an institution of EIT urban mobility. So the purpose is to deliver the platform, the strategy, and from the next year we will work together in EIT in order to develop its strategy.
Great. All right, so looking at the time, I think we're running a little bit long. So to make sure that our last speaker has enough time to speak and we have a little bit of time to discuss at the end, I would like to invite Ralf to the floor. Ralf, are you there? Yes.
Hello, good morning.
Yes.
Hi there.
So Ralf, I'll give you the floor and I'll get back to you at the end. So the same thing, hoping to
click the right button so you can see my screen. I just assume it works. It worked in the rehearsal session before. Right, so my name is Ralf Brand. I work at Rupprecht Consult in Cologne, Germany. The title of my talk is Co-Creation at the Neighborhood Level, a boon to active mobility. So as you can see, in addition to co-creation as a kind of procedural component of the entire session, there are two additional dimensions. One is the spatial dimension, focusing at the neighborhood level, and the other is a specific kind of mode, active mobility. What I'm going to present is based on the empirical findings of Horizon 2020 project called Sunrise. You can see the quick facts there and the 6 action cities that we work with, more specifically neighborhoods within these cities that we work with. 2 key principles of Sunrise: co-creation and the neighborhood focus. So just very, very briefly, what we mean by co-creation as kind of an umbrella term of several phases, if you will, along an innovation chain, starting with co-identification, kind of with citizens, identify problems, co-develop ideas, measures, co-implement them, and co-evaluate them at the end. And this is built into the PERT chart, kind of the workflow of the Sunrise project, as you can see there. Neighborhoods, the 6 neighborhoods we work with range in size in terms of area, but also inhabitants. They can be, but don't have to be, congruent with administrative boundaries. In some cases, it's kind of more an emotional or kind of local identity unit. And we think it's so important to work at the neighborhood level because this is, in fact, where everyday life unfolds, where you can really meet the lived reality of people. Today's focus, I'm just presenting kind of the red threads running through it. Obviously, if you think of a spectrum from spatial spectrum from a whole country to the neighborhood, we focus on neighborhood co-creation, again seen on a spectrum from kind of rational, detached expert planning to really working with citizens along all the phases of innovation. And then various kinds of active modes. Active mode is usually seen as subsumed as walking and cycling. But in fact, particularly if you look for kids, for example, in front of our schools here in Cologne, there are many, many kick scooters and even skateboards. So all of this should be taken into consideration, we believe. Let's firstly kind of look at the nexus, where the neighborhood level as a spatial entity and active mobility overlaps. We think it is important to work at the neighborhood level for, well, a very basic phenomenon. Distances within the neighborhood are usually limited, and that's quite obviously conducive to active modes. The neighborhood is the natural realm of children and older people. Many of them don't have access to a car. That's why active mobility is particularly important. This is where the sheer frequency of trips is very high for school, going to school, shopping, so the everyday life relevance is extremely high. Active modes and the neighborhood level, they have something in common because they enable human encounters. So you meet physically, very, very banal almost, you meet your neighbors on the street much more when you're on the bike or on foot compared to if you're hidden behind a car, thus trying to foster a sense of community. Again, related to that is seeing new behaviors. When people start doing something new, they start walking, they start cycling or using a kick scooter or whatever, you are being seen, and that can affect, which is an important ingredient of kind of moving towards more sustainable mobility. We know from a number of studies that active modes typically strengthen local businesses because obviously you don't take your car and go to a retail center out of town. That's another important factor in this context. Not everything is easy, of course. One of the biggest challenge working at the neighborhood level is you're simply limited in terms of funds, in terms of authority, and the positive side of the positive spin there would be you should seek a strategic complementarity with citywide SUMP, sustainable urban mobility planning efforts. So that's something we found as an important message. So if we add to that the process dimension, co-creation, working with the people, it becomes very obvious that people are the experts in their daily life. They have very detailed local knowledge about shortcuts, perceived impressions about which places feel safe, which streets feel safe, which kind of things are maybe culturally inappropriate. Again, put positively, this is an important ingredient to develop really appropriate solutions that are in the end accepted and adopted by people. Working with citizens at the neighborhood level allows you to pay attention to really small details, which sometimes are extremely important. One of the cases I often say is in a city, we ask people, what do you want? And some of us expected kind of more high-tech demands, but in fact it was, could you please repaint the faded zebra crossing over there at the street? Broken lamps, potholes, these things matter a lot in everyday life mobility. The picture you see here from Budapest is the lighting in this underpass was seen as inappropriate, thus creating kind of a space of fear. Just installing lighting helps improve the situation. You can mobilize local motivation and creativity. Measures are usually very quickly tangible. It allows short feedback loops and creates a positive affirmation that it's worth to engage. You can mobilize this, like kind of permission. Citizens allow you to put up a sign in their garden, even labor funds, if you think of crowdfunding. Democratic legitimacy is an important aspect if you work with people at the neighborhood, because you can go out, discuss with people, again, look at details and ensure that there's a understanding taking place. Challenges, again, co-creation always takes a lot of time, especially component of that. You can't hurry participation. There's always an inevitable unpredictability, because if you're serious asking what, you might get some surprises. In some cases, we encountered something that might be called participation fatigue. It's sometimes difficult to mobilize people. Overcome belief. We are related findings in a number of documents. The document I would like to highlight today is what we call cluster recommendation, how to promote active mobility through co-creation at the neighborhood level. You can find it on the Sunrise website. As you can see here, there's a section called resources, and this is where you can download it. And that's it from my side for today. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Ralf. I think it was a nice presentation to sort of wrap up, also take on a lot of things that were presented in the other presentations. I think looking at the time, maybe we can already invite the other speakers to the floor as well. We can't see you. I don't know if that's on purpose. Is that a... Let's see. All right. Because one of the things that struck me following the presentation from Ralf is that there is a lot of possibility to connect, for example, to the initiative that Hannelore presented as a window chatting, because that's also very much on a neighborhood level. Ralf, can you speak to how you would sort of integrate a more citizen science approach on the neighborhood level?
I'll try to make. I mean, Sunrise didn't have a specific citizen science component in there, but I can see clearly the synergies of that, because well, citizen science, I guess, requires some direct interaction with citizens to very basically to explain a tool, for example. So you have to have this human direct interaction, and also data. If you gather data with the help of citizens, you have to. The interpretation of the data, I think, is particularly important, and that should also be ideally interactive, not just provided by some remote experts, but through a dialogue, get people around the table, hopefully in past COVID times, and to talk about the facts or the objective situation, and interpret together what does that mean for us, and then co-develop ideas. So I think citizen science can be an important component of it in a broader chain of steps towards better solutions.
Yeah. I think that one of the things that some of you mentioned that is relevant at this moment in time is to talk about citizen engagement in the context of COVID-19. Because I think that might be the biggest obstacle in sort of reaching out to people and having people engaged in the activities that we're interested in this case, and also mobility issues. Maria, can you speak to that? So how it impacts your approaches, or how you could mitigate something like that?
Yes, of course. Of course, it impacts the approaches, and but there are solutions, and of course we usually turn to online tools, and we invest more time and resources in the website. In such cases, we also prioritize the social media, of course, and there are, of course, many challenges, mostly related to digital divide, and people, not all target groups have access to the technology, so there are quite a lot of challenges to bring all your target groups there. But of course, there are tools, online tools and crowdsourcing tools, in case also you want to get data from your citizens. But you should be very careful to reach also to your target groups that do not have the level of technology knowledge, let's say.
Yeah. So Hannelore, you mentioned already in your presentation that you are trying to mitigate some of those challenges. What was sort of the biggest difference between not having to deal with the COVID situation and having to deal with it in the context of your window chatting?
Well, you don't meet the people. That's the big challenge. And like Maria says, some target groups are not reached in a digital way. So we leave people behind, that's for sure. And there's we tried, but there's not a lot of solution for that, because to be honest, mobility is not on top of their minds. So I don't even see the solution for that. No. We try to work with intermediaries, but even then they say, I mean, my schedule is full. These people have other needs than talking about mobility. Yeah.
So is it even maybe this is even too meta question? But maybe in the context of your case, Rico, it is because that's quite a long-term process, of course. And I think in this time, a lot of people maybe want to cycle more. So maybe there's a bigger need for the things that you are working on. Do you experience that in your current situation, or is it not a factor in the work that you've done so far for the cycle highway?
Well, we see that people want to cycle more. I must say that it's actually mostly in the cities where there's more cycling. on the countryside, there's some more cycling, but also in some places quite less cycling because people do not go to their jobs or to their schools. What we find now is that, and I must admit that some groups we can't reach with our participation, but there's also another way that some people do not want to come into to some evenings to talk all evening on a subject. Sometimes it's most gray, middle-aged, or even older men coming to such meetings, and maybe we don't organize them well enough to get other people involved. But now with online participation, we see also groups which we didn't reach for before COVID. We can reach them now and get answers from people who we never thought would be interested in traffic safety in the neighborhood, cycle highways, or other mobility plans. So there's also chances which we can use afterwards, I guess.
All right. So there is also some pros into this period of time. So Jordi, we already established that you have a very short period of time where you can reach those. So I think your entire project has been during COVID time, Ran.
Yes, we have started the project in COVID period, but we haven't needed to go, how to say, we have some projects that we have to stop due to they are deployed in the street with people, and they have been impossible to continue developing. But in this case, in our project, we have been working in an internal work. I mean, our work with people start from January, and then we will have a problem related to COVID because we don't know how to engage these people. But with the platform, I think we will be ready to have the needed engagement and anything more.
No, I think it's something that even the most experienced co-creation expert or citizen engagement expert will struggle with, I think. And I think this is, I think you will bring really nice examples to the table that once society goes back to normal, to whatever that's going to be, of course, I think we have a lot of great examples with your presentations. Since we have 5 minutes left, I wanted to do some sort of wrapping up type of things. Thank you all for your presentations. If you have any links or articles that you would like to share, please do that in the chat. I think Pascal will also collect all the links so that they will be available afterwards at some point as well. I do want to draw attention to a few articles or things that might be interesting to the audience. First of all, that is, I will share my screen again, if that works. Does it work? Yeah. Based on a project that Ralf was also involved in, and this is a project that myself was involved in, but also a few other people. In the last October, we had a project or a collaborative final conference of these 4 projects that you see in the bottom. So Sunrise was one of them, but also the project Cities for People, Looper, and Metamorphosis, all projects that dealt with some ways of co-creation and citizen engagement in relation to the development of mobility issues. And from those 4 projects, we came to sort of a shared conclusion and have developed 10 big messages. And I will go through all of them very quickly. But the main thing is that a publication will be put up during this month. So at the end of the year, we have a full publication that goes into more detail of what these 10 big messages are. You see the one at the top is actually the one that Ralf already gave a little bit more insight in, sort of the advantages of a neighborhood level. But as you can see, the other presentations also resonate quite well with the 10 messages that we have here. I think for the sake of time, I'm not going through all of them, but be sure to keep an eye on the publication that is coming up. Each message will have a sort of elaboration on it and how it would